Today we have got something extra special just in time for the Halloween season. I'm your host Ankita and I'm thrilled to introduce to a distinguished attorney with a wealth of experience in the field of personal injury law. Our guest is a true expert in our own right. Allow me to present Natasha S. Walker, a personal injury law who is known not only for her extensive knowledge and impressive track record but also for her genuine passion for helping those in need. Natasha, thank you for joining us today. To kick things off, let's start with Halloween. Halloween is all about fun and costumes and candy, but sometimes things get, take a dark turn. What are some of the most common personal injury cases you have seen related to Halloween festivities?
So, yeah, Halloween is supposed to be all fun and parties and hanging out. Um, and in all of the celebration, the most common situation that comes to mind is making poor choices with regard to being under the influence of alcoholic beverages. And that's usually because maybe we have, someone who is just behind the wheel of a vehicle and they're just in an intoxicated state, and it leads to a dangerous vehicle accident. Motor vehicle accidents can be a traumatic experience for anyone involved, so passengers included. And it's just not the type of thing you want to be dealing with during Halloween. Your family, your friends, and then you're in the hospital perhaps dealing with a very unlikely incident.
Okay, so like you must have seen few cases on this season. Would you like to share some?
So, you mean related to Halloween or just
Yeah, like
personal
personal,
injury in general?
yes, personal injury cases that must have happened in this season or any season which you would like to share, and there are certain things which our audiences not might not be aware of.
Yeah, so some things to keep in mind is, for instance, if you're at a friend's house and you're celebrating, and then you happen to get hurt or injured, a lot of times the owner of that home will have some sort of coverage that could cover your injuries and cover your losses. That's something to keep in mind, but also to be mindful of where you are in your surroundings, because this is not always just a straightforward solution to making sure that your injuries are addressed, because there may be some back and forth with insurance companies and filing claims, and also dealing with the disrupted relationship that you might have with friends and family as to having to seek their insurance for a claim, and so that might kind of disrupt that relationship as well. So just you want to be aware of what you're doing, what others are doing around you, and you want to make sure that you're taking all the proper steps to ensure that you're not inebriated when you leave, and if so, you have a designated driver or your friends and family know where you are at all times, that sort of thing.
Okay, completely noted. I actually feel that our audience would be, more aware what you told me. So moving forward, how about Halloween parties? They can get pretty wild. Can hosts be held responsible for accidents or injuries that occur at their place?
Well, so yes, maybe no, it just really depends on whether that host of the party is the owner of the property. So whatever happened at the location, why it happened, what caused, what were the events that led up to the cause of that incident happening, were there injuries, was someone actually hurt, or was it just a situation that was just kind of, a challenge to deal with. So what you're thinking about here is premises liability, which can be viewed and interpreted different depending on your jurisdiction. So depending on what state you live in. And so I practice in Texas. So generally speaking, the landowner, so whomever does own that property, may be the one who's held responsible. So it just kind of depends on how it happened, what the owner was aware of, if there was any negligence, so things like that. So you want to just kind of know who all might be involved and who all you might need to contact.
Okay, so a property owner can be someone who would be responsible while a personal injury case. Depends on the situation.
Right, depending, but yes.
Okay. Okay. Also, for our listeners, who want to stay safe this Halloween, what are the some most practical tips they can take to avoid personal injury cases?
Some practical things you can take. Um, I would start with making sure what coverage you have. So, for instance, if you're going to be, driving your car or going to a party and you have friends with you, know what your coverages are, know what insurance you have, know what the claims process is like. Um, some other things you will want to do definitely to stay safe is to drink responsibly. So if you are drinking and if your friends are drinking, make sure that you're aware of what your limits are, so to speak, knowing how much you can consume without becoming, impaired. Yeah, so because accidents can happen just kind of unpredictably. Like you can't just expect an accident to happen. It just usually happens because maybe there was some inattention or maybe there were some steps you didn't take ahead of time to try to prevent it. So you just want to make sure that you're knowledgeable about your insurance, knowledgeable about the people you're with, and you're taking responsibility for the things you're doing before you get behind the wheel.
Okay. As you told me about the coverage of your insurance and everything, how does the law differentiate between legitimate scare tactics and situations that cross the line into negligence or harm?
So how does the law view negligence? So negligence can be considered a legal theory. So when one party is going after another party for injuries that they may have sustained in a personal injury case, they're looking to deal with a certain level of care, and so that's like a standard of behavior that people are kind of expected to proceed with and abide by, and so that's like a reasonable standard in Texas. But it's sometimes more than just being negligent for the act of it. Sometimes it's not doing anything at all, which can be negligent, like having no action or lack of an action. And so it really just depends on how an injury happened to a person to determine if others are possibly liable or could have done something to you know, not have an incident occur in the first place. So when it comes to haunted houses and you're thinking, okay, people are going to haunted houses and they're signing up to be scared on purpose. So a lot of times when you go to these places, they're going to have you sign some sort of waiver or something that would limit their liability if you were ever to be injured or hurt in some way, which could ultimately limit any damages that you try to seek later. So you want to be careful about that because things you do like that, you kind of do at your own risk.
Okay, and like Natasha, you told me that you should also keep the your what is your insurance coverage and everything in mind before like indulging into any parties or sort of thing. What if someone doesn't have an insurance coverage? What kind of compensation or damages can someone typically expect to receive in a personal injury case related to Halloween incidents or, for instance, just normal personal injuries?
Yeah, so I guess it just depends on the type of personal injury that you experienced. So, and I can give the example with automobile accidents because that one is probably the most straightforward, I suppose. You can think of automobile accidents as one person driving their vehicle, another person driving their vehicle, and both vehicles have separate coverages attached to them. But say in a situation where these vehicles collide on a highway or roadway, and one of the parties doesn't have coverage. Well, say the party who doesn't have coverage is also the party who was at fault for that accident. The other party then could go after their own insurance, and by that you're really just filing a claim, assuming that that person knows that they have what's called uninsured motorist coverage. They could still get their damages paid for from their own insurance company. The insurance company would then compensate them and then go after the at fault driver individually, or they would go after whomever is the owner of that vehicle. So, but the situation, I suppose it depends on what's happened and who was driving the other person's car. to know if there is an opportunity there for the insurance company to go after them later.
Okay. Someone is injured at a haunted house attraction, like you mentioned it before. What steps should they take immediately following the incident, and how they can protect their legal rights? And not just haunted house, like any personal injury cases, rather it's a Halloween season or it's not. Like, what are the basic first 5 steps if you number it? What should one take?
So, if you're at a haunted house and you're injured, you'll want to probably make a report. I think that's important. And so that's just letting someone know, finding an operator, finding, a manager or someone who's in charge there and making a report, like an incident report, and doing that as soon as possible. So what you're doing by making that report is putting the haunted house company or organization, the entity, the establishment, the premises, you're putting them on notice that you've been hurt and you've been hurt on their property. So that gives them notice, and then it gives them also an opportunity to communicate with you about what they can do to help you get better or to address your injury. The next thing you want to do is to get some medical help. So whether
Okay.
that's going to the emergency room or going to the doctor or something like that, you want to make sure that you have a doctor or some licensed physician have a look at you medically to see that you're okay. And if necessary, and if it leads to it, you may need to also file a police report if it's escalated to something where you think you need that record.
So, Natasha, if we have like, if someone wants to notify their own lawyers during a personal injury case, and like they are involved into some injury or some accident, is there any specific step or a procedure to notify the lawyers, or to, like the first 3 steps someone should take who wants to notify their own lawyer?
Well, so to notify your lawyer, you're just calling them. So you just contact them either by phone, by email. A lot of times, a personal injury lawyer will have some sort of online platform, so a website. You can go to their website and fill out a contact form. And you just kind of let them know the gist of what happened. You were involved in an injury and you need some help, you need some legal guidance regarding your case. So they'll investigate the case that you have going on, which is what I do. So when clients call and they have an injury case, I'll collect information from them and I'll go and investigate and determine, the likelihood of them being able to pursue a claim and then helping them along the way.
Okay. So, just closing off our podcast, would you want to, give some tips or some, like you want to tell some information that our audience won't be aware of?
So a lot of times people aren't aware that they, for one, have some level of recourse when they've been injured. And then sometimes you think that you can manage an injury on your own without going to the doctor. And so I would just advise that you still go to the doctor and get checked out. Because there may be something else there. There may be something that you're missing. Um, Even if you've been in the medical field at all, you're not going to see or observe things, as you experience them personally versus having a physician actually do an exam on you. So and it's always a good idea. So you just want to go to the doctor, even if it's just to get cleared. I think that's always advisable. And then, making a police report if necessary. You definitely want to do that. You don't want to miss that step.
Okay. So, thank you so much for telling us so much information, and I am sure that our audience would be thrilled to have this podcast live. So, Natasha, we would be concluding this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if our visitors want to reach you, how can they be in connect with you?
Yeah, so my law firm is the law office of Natasha S. Walker. I'm based in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
My website is www.pipinjuryfirm.com, and PIP is for the personal injury place. And so I do practice personal injury in Texas. My phone number is 346-627-2227. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Natasha, for joining